Are you looking for the top 10 movies of 2024? Well, I have bad news for you if you're watching this video because I don't really have the answers. But I'll tell you which ones I liked. Welcome to the channel. I am BudsterBrown, here to offer casuals and critics a perspective on cinema. Today, giving you my opinion, aka facts and logic, on which films that I liked the most in the year 2024. Now, this isn't necessarily a qualitative list where I'm trying to look at everything objectively. I have a bunch of different criteria going into this, such as rewatchability, how much I enjoyed watching the film in the first place, and just also the general craft and experience that I had going into the theater. And it is worth noting that I am limited to the movies that I have experienced firsthand. I have not gotten anywhere close to seeing every movie in 2024, but I did see more than the average person, I would assume. And before I bless you with my humble opinions on the top 10 movies of 2024, I did want to give an honorable mention to Nosferatu, which just barely didn't make this list, but I watched it yesterday. I thought it was really well made. I loved a lot of the visuals. Some of the story just didn't wow me as much as I would have liked, especially being a fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula and seeing that before, and I really wished that it grabbed me more than it did, but it was super solid, almost made the list. I thought I would just highlight that real quickly. But getting into my number 10 is Terrifier 3, where Art the Clown returns to Miles County to cause mayhem during Christmas. Terrifier 3 was dangerously close to not even making the list just because of how violent and gratuitous it is. So many of the scenes made me turn away and made my stomach churn, but in some ways that's kind of a refreshing experience when it comes to horror. There's so many movies that just don't get any reaction out of me, but at the same time, I'm not looking forward to rewatching it anytime soon because it's so violent, which is why it almost didn't even make the list. However, it was one of the most impactful theater experiences I've ever had, being with this group where there was just such a range of dynamic expression, where someone just walked out of the theater. I swear I heard someone barf. Some people were laughing. Other people were shivering in fear. Some people just looked super disgusted. I was in that camp myself. And overall, there was just this energy seeing the movie in theaters that was just very intoxicating. And on top of that, I really loved the practical gore effects. I really loved the cinematography, that grindhouse, dark fantasy Christmas aesthetic that felt reminiscent of something you would maybe see in a low-budget 70s or 80s movie. The vibes were totally there. David Howard Thornton, playing Art the Clown again, did such an amazing job with the character, and this was my favorite portrayal of the character out of all three of the movies. And just seeing Art the Clown let loose during a Christmas setting, a time and place where Art the Clown should never be. He's like the complete opposite of that, and the director said as much in an interview with Sean Chandler. I just thought that there was a lot of things for me to get out of this movie as a horror fan, and due to all of these reasons, I felt like it definitely deserved a spot on my list somewhere, even if it's at the very bottom. My number 9 is Mean Girls, which is a musical remake based off of a Broadway play based off of the original Mean Girls that came out in 2004. Now, you guys might think I'm a teenage girl here, and you know what? Fair. I love the original Mean Girls movie. I just find it to be so fun and entertaining. I don't even know how true it is to life, but it's just a great time and it's extremely funny. And seeing a remake going into a musical direction, I've never seen the play at all, but seeing it brought to life in just such a new flavor and new way was really fun for me. And I almost put Wicked here instead because that was another musical that came out this year that was also good. But dog, that movie was almost 3 hours. That's way too long for a musical, unless you're like Sound of Music or something. But like, I loved this short, brief, fun re-entry into one of my favorite comedy movies of the early 2000s. I thought all of the performances were good. A lot of the songs are actually kind of catchy, and I still hum them from time to time about a year later. And it just delivered a fun, solid time that I was happy to show all of my friends and family. My number 8 is The Substance, where an aging actress, in an attempt to hold on to her youth and beauty, takes a mysterious substance which gives her her wish in an unexpected way. This was a complete blind watch without knowing any of the details whatsoever, and I decided, oh, I'll just take my wife to this movie because I'm sure she'll have a good time. And let me tell you, she was not happy. However, I was happy because it was a pretty good movie. This movie has some incredibly effective body horror, and it uses that to explore how a lot of women's self-esteem and confidence comes from that beauty, and the sad reality that that will eventually go away when you get older, and the things that people will do to hold on to that beauty. And it does that in so many powerful ways that I don't want to give away. If you're a fan of horror, especially body horror, and you have the stomach to sit through The Substance, I highly recommend it. My number 7 is Twisters, where a young female scientist tries to stop a tornado dead in its track with the help of a tornado wrangler. If that sounds really ridiculous to you, it's because it is. Twisters is not necessarily a movie for the critics here, the cinephiles, but it is a genre disaster flick, and I gotta say, it works so well at that. It's like the exact opposite situation of me bringing my wife to The Substance. I brought her to Twisters, and she had a blast. One might even say she was blown away. Don't have too much to say about this one. Super fun. Glenn Powell does an amazing job playing this swag cowboy tornado hunter with a heart of gold. Basically your typical male thirst trap character. But honestly, looking at some of the TikToks and reels I see, it worked. The thirst trap was successful. This is just a really fun time at the movies where crazy things are happening. And it's one of those movies where you want to just get a group of friends, just laugh at a lot of the absurdity, but get hyped for some of the cooler moments. My number 6 is Deadpool and Wolverine, where Deadpool seeks the help of Logan to help him save the world and the multiverse. If you guys have seen a lot of my videos, you'll know I throw a lot of digs at the MCU, and maybe unfairly so. It's incredibly impressive what Marvel was able to pull off, and while a lot of the movies don't appeal to me as much as they did when I was a kid, they did appeal to me as a kid, and I will always cherish those times I had with those movies, even though now a great many of them feel very factory produced to me going back. But while I'm on the topic of childhood nostalgia, I loved the original X-Men movies. I loved the 20th Century Fox lineup of those characters. And this movie is a love letter to all of that. Not just the X-Men, all of the 20th Century Fox lineup. I felt very seen, very heard, and while it is yet again another factory produced movie, there's not an original concept here. A lot of the stuff that they did do was just fan service that I appreciated, and if I get a lot of that fan service that I like mixed in with some fun interactions between Deadpool and Wolverine, which is something I always wanted to see on the big screen, as well as having a lot of fun action scenes and heightened spectacle, then I'm in. I'm here for a good time. It is a flawed movie. There's certainly a lot of things that I don't like about it, and if you think about the plot for more than 2 seconds, you're going to start scratching your head, but overall, I had such a great time with this movie. I watched it twice in theaters with different groups of people, and while there was varying degrees of love for it, we all had a good time. My number 5 is Dune 2, where Paul Atreides allies with the Freemen to avenge his family's downfall and fulfill his destiny as their prophesized leader. I'm someone that loves a good sci-fi movie and a good fantasy. And ever since the Lord of the Rings movies ran their course and Star Wars has kind of fallen into steep decline, I'll say, I've had this void in my heart for a good fantasy sci-fi movie, and Dune 2 fills this void. There's a lot of familiar concepts here for sure, but it's executed in such a artful and meticulous way that I had a lot of fun with it. I was invested in it. It's not a movie that I would want to rewatch that much, which is why it isn't higher, but you could make an argument that this is the best movie of the year. It feels like this high spectacle event akin to Lord of the Rings, akin to a Star Wars, and even though obviously it's not going to make as much money as a Star Wars movie, the scale and magnitude of what is on screen is incredible to see, especially because the special effects look so remarkable. I don't really have any complaints with Dune 2. It just didn't grab me quite as much as it could have. My number 4 is Heretic, where an older man kidnaps 2 Mormon missionaries and engages in theological debates with them, trying to disprove their religion. Heretic is a movie that hit me at the right time. Not only did I grow up Mormon myself, but I have heavily been looking into a lot of religions this year, trying to explore my spirituality, which I won't get too much into here. However, I will say, when you have a horror movie dedicated to theological discussions with the religion I grew up, but not only that, tackling all religions and potential intentions of those religions are very, very interesting to me. And hearing Hugh Grant's side of things, who, by the way, did a phenomenal job in this movie, and then hearing the sister missionary side of things was engaging, enthralling, falls off a little bit in the last act, doesn't ruin the movie. I was still thoroughly engaged, but that first half, where it is just theological discussion, was so killer to me that I had to put it at number 4 because it just hits so close to home and was executed remarkably. And before I get into my top 3, make sure to subscribe to this channel if you like what you're hearing, and like the video and comment down below. What is your favorite movies of 2024, and what do you think about my picks? My number 3 is Lisa Frankenstein, where a troubled young woman ends up going down a dark path in this coming-of-age love story. Now, why is Lisa Frankenstein at my number 3? Well, I'm not sure. It's one of those movies that I have a very hard time articulating effectively why I liked it so much. It was just this weird, quirky gem that really connected with me for whatever reason. The silliness, the comedy, the over-the-top nature of it, it all just came together in a way that I really loved. Zelda Williams poured her heart into this movie with the script from Diablo Cody. I loved it. What can I say? My number 2 is Alien Romulus, which follows a group of space colonizers as they venture into a derelict space station, inadvertently unleashing deadly xenomorphs that threaten their survival. Director Fede Alvarez cooked with this movie. While I've only seen 2 other Aliens movies, which is Alien 1 and Alien 2 specifically, this is my favorite Aliens movie that I've seen so far. It's everything that I would ever want from this franchise. It takes what Fede Alvarez was able to create with The Evil Dead and combining it with the best hits of Alien movies into this incredibly hype, tense, action-filled, full of thrills story that made me feel almost every emotion possible. It was shot really well. The xenomorphs were intimidating. There was this weird, crazy baller decision made in the 3rd act where they swing for the fences, and some people hated that. I loved it. It's a movie that takes risks, pays homage to the source material, some of which, yeah, I'll admit they went a little bit overboard with some of the references, but not to the point where it ever really took me out of the movie, where I was no longer able to enjoy the movie. I just had such a great time with the movie. It takes everything that I love about the Alien franchise and then mixes it with Fede Alvarez's style to create something truly new and fresh to the franchise that I can really appreciate. But my number 1 and the best movie of 2024 is Sonic the Hedgehog 3, where Sonic and friends trade blows with Shadow the Hedgehog and try to stop his diabolical plot to destroy the world. Now, I know to a great many of you this pick will seem ridiculous, and you know what? You're probably right, but it is worth mentioning that I am a massive Sonic fan. I've played all of the mainline games, and my favorite character is Shadow the Hedgehog. And the fact that they portrayed him very accurately and adapted the core essence of the character into the movie was really satisfying to me. And not only that, I just thought the plot was super entertaining. They incorporated a bunch of elements from one of my favorite Sonic games, Sonic Adventure 2, which is just such a beloved story to so many Sonic fans in general, even if there is a bunch of glaring issues in both execution and just basic plot beats. And I think that Sonic 3 taking a lot of those elements but trimming it down to a more palatable viewing experience for regular moviegoers that just want their families to have a good time and not be like totally lost with what's going on. And it's also just so impressive how broad the appeal is. I like it as an adult. All of my friends that I took this movie to really liked the movie, not as much as me, obviously, but they were like, yeah, that was better than I expected. It was a good time for a kids' movies. The kids liked this movie in my theater. I heard them laughing a whole lot. There's so much for everyone. There's There's so much broad appeal here that I feel that no matter who you are, there's something for everyone. Hype, action, Jim Carrey doing the Jim Carrey thing, but a ton of heart and a thematic through line that ties a lot of the movie's core messages together in a nice, neat bow. Sonic 3 is everything that I would ever want from a Sonic movie adaptation, and it was quite the Sonic adventure for me. And hey, that's the video. If you guys want to hear more about my in-depth thoughts on the #1 movie of the year for me, you can click right here, or if you just want to watch my movie review playlist, you can click right here, though not gonna lie, I'd skip through the first couple of them. They're a little bit rough to get through. That being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later.